Hi students, Unit 10 has an exercise that focuses specifically on tables and tabs. And today we're going to do, in this video, preferably the table first. Tabs may end up in another video ahead of this one, so there'll be multiple videos for this. But we're going to start off by launching InDesign, and this is for your Unit 10 exercise. We're going to create a new file or do file, new document setup, and make sure that we have this set to inches. We want to be in landscape mode because we're going to be creating a calendar March of 2019, and landscape just will allow us to have more room on the page for that. I'd rather do it that way for this. Uncheck facing pages, make sure there's just one page, and then columns. You can use these or not. I'm going to go ahead and say 7, and then for the gutter, usually I like to have 0.25. I'm going to do, we'll do a 0.15 for this particular one. Margins, we're going to keep it at 0.25. Make sure you keep all the settings the same. And then bleed and slug, 0.125. Make sure you keep all the settings the same. Slug, 0. And then go ahead and say create. And here you have a nice little area to start designing with your grid setup for columns. You may or may not find these distracting. You can always just go to your selection tool and then hit W for preview. You get it in preview mode. You can design in preview mode without seeing the guides or any of those columns that are set on the page or the bleed. Kind of just gives a designer a way to kind of back away and review what they've done. So I'm going to go ahead and you got to select on your type tool in order to create a table in InDesign. So select your type tool, and we're going to do an invisible box select, or an invisible box here, not select, but, and then it inserts your cursor blinking. And then this is the only way to create a table within InDesign. So before we get too ahead of ourselves, I'm going to go ahead and save this file. File, save as. You want to do U10 underscore tables underscore last name. And then, so go ahead and just save that onto the desktop or somewhere that you know. And then go back to the file, and we're going to insert a table. Again, you can only do this when you're in the text tool and you have a text box. Table, insert table, and then you get a menu that pops up. Since we're doing March of 2019, March, I believe, has 5 rows because 5 weeks. There's really 4 full weeks in March. But next year, there's a 29th day, which is interesting in year 2019. And those weeks actually begin on a Friday and end on a Friday. So it makes us have to have 5 full weeks showing in our calendar design for our table. And so I also want to have a header row, and I'm going to make 2 header rows and 1 footer row. I don't know if we're going to use that, but just in case. So this gives us 8 rows in our table. And you can also do a table style. So for example, if you really like what you're about to create for a table style, then you might want to select new table style. It allows you to customize it so that if you're if you want to save time in the future, and let's say your particular job is very demanding with tables in your designs, you can automatically refer to those same tables over and over instead of having to recreate them each time. Time-saving tips, sort of like our character and paragraph styles that we've learned earlier in the term. So header rows, 2, footer rows, 1, columns, we're going to do 7 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for 7 days of the week. Okay, I'm going to say okay. So you notice some of those, the gutters of our columns and the lines between the cells of the table are not exactly aligning. It's sort of annoying. You can adjust that if you want. You can eliminate your view of these columns so that you're working on a blank page, or like I said, just go like this and hit W and then don't worry about it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click inside of my table because I want to start customizing the cells. Now, you'll notice you always want to pull from the bottom and not the top because it's not going to let you move. This is the tightest it gets. If I hover over something and move it upward, nothing really happens. I can't adjust my cell size that way. So I want to start by adjusting the bottom of the first cell. I'm going to pull that down to about here. And then what I might do is start to give myself some guidelines. Go to maybe 1.5 inches. And then from there on, I'm going to do every inch. I'm going to put a guide. 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, 7.5. So we have a little bit of extra space, and that's kind of what I want. But I'm going to go back in and try and align most of these, moving downward with each one. Kind of snaps into place. If you have snap on, make sure you go to, I believe it's View, Grids and Guides, Snap to Guides. So if you have snap on, it will allow you to kind of snap to those guides a little bit easier with some of these. There we go. That's our footer row. This is our header row. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. We might have a few extra. We have a header row. We want this next row maybe to write March of 2019 in it. So we got a couple options. It gives us some freedom, which is nice. So the next thing is if I hit W, I may not want this top row to even show. I want to insert those flower photos that I provided for you guys since March is when we start to want to see flowers, right? We are in March right now. Spring starts in March. So if I want to enter in flowers here, I probably don't want them to be outlined. It'll look kind of cheesy, and I just don't want that to be the case. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this row, or go and drag across to highlight this row. And you'll notice it's context sensitive up at the top in the control panel. One of the great things are that we can take a look, and each one of these lines between the cells we can customize. We can enlarge the stroke around the lines. We can eliminate the stroke around the lines. Now, if I think long and hard about this, I definitely want to highlight this. I don't want any of these lines to show between the photos or around the photos, but at the bottom I might want a line to define where the calendar starts, right? But maybe not. Maybe I'll do that to the second one, because since we have plenty of rows, that gives us a chance to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, since these show 2 rows, I'm going to select all of these lines, indicating that I want all of these strokes selected, but I don't want this one selected. You can kind of see up in the control panel, this gets kind of difficult sometimes to see, but if I select that, that means I'm going to include all of these strokes in telling them I don't want a stroke. But if I unselect it, it means I still want this to have a line down here. So that makes sense. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to say 0 for the stroke. And if I click again, you'll notice that now all of those strokes are invisible. So that's nice. This is where I want to go with this. So I'm going to go to my very first cell. You can still see the cells. But if you go to your very first cell, we're going to start to insert those photographs. Okay. And now I'm wondering, should I insert the photographs closer and allow it to say March up here? Or should I insert the photographs farther away? We're going to do farther away. So put your cursor right in that first cell and do a Control D on the PC, Command D on the Mac, and start to insert your photos. Of course, you can enlarge them as well to make the framing of it a little more interesting. Okay. Next, insert the second one. Insert the third. Insert the fourth. Scale as you need. You don't want them all to be the same distance away and around the same size. You want to bring some variety to it. Are we on the fourth? We can always go back if we need to. Nope, fifth. Good. 6, 7. Okay, so I'm going to probably scale this one. Oh, that seems about right. Okay, all right. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I write March 2019 across here. And of course, you can make these much more designerly and beautiful. This is a very basic calendar. It's not pretty, it's just functional. So we're going to go across and highlight all of these cells because I do not want them to be separate because that means I can't type in one big area here. So if you select each one, bring it across, you're going to want to now go up to Table, Merge Cells. What's great about that is now this is one cell, and I'm going to write March 2019. I'm going to enlarge it. It allows me to enlarge it across the page, which is exactly what I want to do. Maybe I don't want it to be so stark black. Maybe a softer gray. Or even maybe like a nice spring green. And then I go over, and I do not like a serif font for this. I'm going to do a myriad. Or better yet, do some crazy, wacky Futura. Do not like medium. Ooh, I don't like condensed medium either, but we'll keep it there for now. Okay, so March 2019. So we're moving along, and so what we want to accomplish next is we want to start entering in the days. You can start with Monday through Sunday. I like Sunday through Saturday. It's sort of common to see that in calendars. So, you can do all lowercase Sunday, and then of course make sure it's the same font or a complementary font. Condensed medium. I'm just going to copy these across the board, or you can do your character styles. Oops. I'm going to do all lowercase for these. Think contrast when you're designing. Many of you do so well at that already. Okay, so the other thing I want to do is I want to make sure the text is, it's not going to let me do it. We'll make those 100% and make those that pretty spring green. Usually it allows me to do that here. See if it does it this way. Well, it made all of my cells that. We're going to do that next. So we're going to go to None. We're just going to highlight each one of these. Go ahead and do that, and I'll see you in the next video, and we're going to continue on from there.